Hear ye, hear ye, hear ye. All persons having anything to do before the Honorable, the Justice E. Susan Gosh of the Superior Court, now sitting at Fall River within and for the Commonwealth, draw near, give your attendance, and you shall be heard. God save the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Court is now in session. Be seated, please.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning.
Today is Friday, February 13th, 2015. The case on trial today is Commonwealth versus Aaron Hernandez, indictment DRCR 2013-0983. The Honorable E. Susan Garsh presiding.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning.
Have any of you seen or heard or read or overheard anything at all about this case from Mr. Hernandez since I last inquired? No affirmative responses. Have any of you discussed the case from Mr. Hernandez with anyone since I last inquired? There are no affirmative responses. And have any of you had any difficulty following my instructions not to talk or otherwise communicate about, look at, listen to, or do any research about this case from Mr. Hernandez? There are no affirmative responses. A few things. First of all, let me thank you for your patience. I know you were all here on time today. As I indicated to you at the outset, from time to time, legal issues come up, and they come up at the last minute, and therefore I need to make rulings on these legal issues and meet with counsel, and we will try to keep those to a minimum, but they do happen from time to time. Also, we discussed last week next week's schedule. After consultation with counsel, we will be stopping as originally, as I originally indicated we would in this trial. We'll be stopping at 1 next Wednesday. I do, however, at this point at least, anticipate that we will be going a full day on Friday. Mr. McCall.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, we'd call Sergeant Kevin Halley, please.
Please face the clerk and raise your right hand.
Sir, do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give to this court and this jury will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Have a seat, sir.
There you are.
You may.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
State your full name.
My name is Kevin Halley,
Could you spell your last name, please?
H-A-L-L-E.
And do you work?
Yes, I am a sergeant with the Massachusetts State Police, currently assigned to crime scene services.
Okay. How long have you been with the state police?
Going on 23 years now.
And you indicated you're currently assigned to the crime scene service section of the state police?
Correct.
How long have you been assigned there?
Approximately 13 years.
Can you just describe your general duties as part of the crime scene service section?
We're responsible for documenting and processing the scenes. We assist the FBI, bank robbery task force, state fire marshal's office, local departments, the district attorney's office. If there's fingerprints that need to be processed, we'll process fingerprints, tire tracks, footwear.
Okay. I'd like to direct your attention back to June of 2013. Where were you assigned at that time?
Bourne office.
Okay. And on sometime during the week of June 17th of 2013, did you have a conversation with a Sergeant Stephen Bennett?
I did.
Do you know Sergeant Bennett?
I do.
How do you know him?
He's the supervisor in Lakeville at the time.
Okay. As a result of that conversation, did you go anywhere?
I responded to North Attleboro to assist him.
And on what date did you do that, sir?
The 22nd,
And just describe the area that you responded to assist.
I would say a gravel pit.
And just tell us about the weather on that date.
It was clear. Sun was out. It wasn't raining at the time. It got rather warm.
And when you arrived, approximately what time did you arrive?
Approximately 1000 hours.
And when you arrived, did you meet with any other law enforcement personnel?
There was a uniformed officer from North Attleboro.
Okay. When you say a uniformed officer from North Attleboro, where did you see that person?
He was with his cruiser
And where was the cruiser?
at the entrance.
Okay. And did you have some conversation with him?
Yeah, we introduced ourselves.
And as a result of that, did you proceed from there to another location?
Yes,
And where was that?
where the body of Odin Lloyd was.
Okay. And did you meet at that time in that area with other officers?
Sergeant Bennett,
Anybody else?
Trooper Collins from Bristol.
Okay. And just tell us, when you arrived at that location, what did you do?
First, we had to unload our vehicles. We brought rakes, shovels, a tarp, a screen box, metal detector.
Okay. And what did you do with those items?
We placed them several feet away from where we were going to excavate the ground.
Okay. You said the area where you're going to excavate the ground. At some point, did you see a particular area, or did you actually work on a particular area?
Yes, there was a red-brown stain. So we actually I took some orange paint and marked out the general area of where we're going to be digging.
Okay. And after you had done that, did you make any markings with that orange paint?
I did the head and the feet position.
Okay. And what did you do after you had made those markings with the orange paint?
After that, then we attempted to dig with the shovel, but it's very hard-packed soil.
Okay.
So we had a pickaxe there.
Okay. What did you do with the pickaxe?
We broke the ground up best we could, probably about an inch or two down.
Okay. And when you were doing that, were you doing anything with the rubble that you were undisturbing?
Yes, that would be then shoveled into the screen box.
Okay. And if you would just describe that process, the screen box, what is that?
Anyone who has a house that screens loam at home, it's basically to take out the larger chunks. They fall behind. The soil will fall between the screen.
Okay. And you indicated there was a tarp that you also had?
That's correct.
And what were you doing with the tarp?
The top was to collect any smaller items that might have fallen through that might be looked at later.
Okay. So as you began this process, how long did you do that?
I probably arrived at 1,000 hours. I would say at 1,100 hours, shortly after that, we found the first projectile.
Okay. When you say you found the first projectile, describe what happened.
I was screening the material that we had taken out, the first shovelful, and looking in the screen, there was a projectile.
Okay. And after you observed a projectile, well, first of all, where was that, as you were taking these shovelfuls out, what area did you start at?
We started in the blood-soaked area.
Okay. And after you found this item, this first item, what did you mark that in any way?
Yes, we flagged it.
Okay. And how do you flag it?
It's a little yellow flag. You put the number on it, so it would have been number 1. My initials would have been on it.
Okay. And where in relation was that to this red-brown stain?
Pretty close to, I mean, it's hard to say with the shovel, but I would say in the immediately inside the red-brown stain.
Okay. I may approach. So I'm just going to show you a series of photographs and ask you if you recognize them.
I do.
One,
Yes.
number 2,
Yes.
number 3,
Yes.
4,
Yes.
number 5,
Yes.
6,
Yes.
7,
Yes.
8,
Yes.
and number 9.
Yes.
And what do you recognize these photos to portray?
The area in which we were digging that day and the projectile that we found.
And do these photos fairly and accurately portray different aspects of the digging and the recovery of that?
Yes.
Your Honor, I would offer these as the next.
No objection.
Remain marked as the next exhibit.
I may I use the overload copies? Placing number 75A on the overhead. Recognize that, sir?
I do.
And just describe what is this portray?
That was the gravel pit where we had the dig that day. We would have entered from actually behind me, the entrance.
I'm just, when you're facing the screen,
Sorry.
I'll just remind you to please keep your voice
Sure.
up.
I'm sorry, from what direction would you have entered?
The entrance would have been behind me as I'm looking at the screen.
Placing number 75, excuse me, 75B. Recognize that, sir?
I do.
And what do you recognize that to be?
It shows the entrance, the marked cruiser, and the traffic cones marking where the tire track was.
And just with regard to the area that you had described initially that you had excavated, you see that area located in this photograph?
I do.
And can you just point with your finger on trying to locate? You're indicating over here?
Yes.
Okay. Now, sir, I'm just going to direct your attention to that item there. Do you see something? Do you recall there being an item in the area where you dug?
There was a clear plastic, it's like the heavy 10 mil plastic,
Okay. And what was the condition of that?
pretty torn. It was actually in the ground pretty good. It was tough to get out.
So now placing 75C on the overhead. Recognize that?
Yes.
What do you recognize that?
That is the sifting area that I had set up with the 2 rakes and the projectile beside the ruler.
And is that the manner in which you then sifted through this material?
That's correct.
Placing 75D. Recognize that?
Yes.
What do you recognize that to be?
The sifter, once again, with the projectile ruler next to it.
And when you say the projectile, can you just identify where that is in this photograph?
Nope.
You're indicating this item here?
Yes.
And so I'm placing now 75E on the overhead. Is that closer up of that?
Yes,
projectile?
right beside number 8 on the ruler.
Now, after you had observed this, what did you do?
After that, it would have been collected.
Okay, and how would you collect it?
Naturally, we'd have gloves on. We would place it in a envelope. The envelope would have been marked.
Placing number 75F. You recognize that?
Yes.
You recognize that to be?
That is projectile number 1 with some black material adhered to it.
Now, when you recovered it, was that black material on it at that time?
Yes.
And just describe, as best you can, that type of material that was on it.
Black, dark-colored fiber.
Did you preserve that?
Yes.
What did you do with that item?
Both items were placed in the envelope.
I'm just going to show you now if you mark 75G to recognize what's portrayed here.
Yes, that's my handwriting, marking the number corresponding with the flag, the date, my initials, and the time that it was collected.
And there's some of your initials, is that?
KPH.
Okay. And what about what's to the left here?
Those are Sergeant Bennett's.
Now, you indicated that after that you flagged it, is that right?
Correct.
Placing number 75H on the overhead. You recognize what's depicted here.
Yes, that's the flag that I had labeled.
Okay, how do you know you labeled it?
My initials are on it.
Okay. And what number was assigned?
Number 1.
Now, placing number 75I on the overhead, you recognize this scene.
Yes.
What do you recognize that to be?
That's the area in which we were digging in.
And you had indicated before there was orange paint that you had put out.
Correct.
Is that shown here?
Yes.
And that item, the plastic item you referred to, is that shown?
Yes.
And that flag now, which flag is that?
That's number 1.
And in reference to the area, you said you first observed blood stain. Just if you would point where that general area was.
You can kind of see with the shovel.
You're
That whole area
indicating
there.
this area, sir?
Yes.
Now, sir, after you had recovered that item, labeled it, flagged it, what else did you do?
Then we proceeded to disturb the soil using the pickaxe once again.
Okay. And what happened when you did that?
Sergeant Bennett had then noticed that there was another projectile laying right there in the dirt.
Okay. And at some point, did you make observations of that area?
I did.
And just tell us what you saw.
I saw the projectile laying in the ground in the area that we had just used the pickaxe on.
I'm going to show you again a series of photographs. Ask you if you recognize them. That's number 1.
Yes.
Number 2.
Yes.
3.
Yes.
Number 4.
Yes.
And number 5.
Yes.
What do you recognize these to be?
Those are the area of the first and second projectile, the projectile itself, number 2, and the labeling.
And does it fairly and accurately portray the scene as related to the recovery of projectile number 2?
It does.
Your Honor, I'd offer this as the next exhibit.
Okay.
Marcus, next exhibit.
Okay, publish these. It's fine. So I'm placing the first photograph in the overhead. Recognize that, sir?
I do.
And that's 76A. Just tell us, what is this?
That's projectile number 2.
And does that show the location of this item?
Yes.
This is number 76B now. Recognize that.
That is projectile number 2, removed from the soil and placed on the envelope.
Recognize the handwriting in that envelope?
Yes, that's mine.
And did you assign a number to this one?
Yes, number 2.
Next one, 76C.
That's
Recognize this.
That's a flag that I had labeled, number 2, the date and the time.
Next one is 76D. You recognize this?
Yes.
And what does this show?
That's with flag number 1 and 2. The scale is still in number 2.
And lastly, 76E. You recognize this, sir?
Yes, that's once again flag number 1, 2, projectile, and a scale.
And the scale that you placed here, is that some few inches of the flag?
Correct.
And does that show the location of where the projectile is in relation to that flag?
Yes.
Can you just point that out for us, please? You're indicating
Right above number 2.
right there, sir?
Yes.
Now, sir, again, back to that red-brown stain, where was the second projectile recovered in relation to where you first observed that red-brown stain?
This whole, if you look at it, the whole area has been disturbed, and the stain would be right above it.
I'm sorry, sir, if you just put your hand there again where the stain
Yeah,
would
the
be?
stain would be in this area here.
You're indicating right here.
Correct.
Now, sir, what was the approximate distance between where you flagged those two projectiles, where the flag is number 1 and where this other projectile is recovered?
There's probably about a foot in between the two of them.
Approach. So I'm just going to show you two envelopes. Do you recognize these envelopes, sir?
Yes.
And I'm just going to have you take a look inside the envelope. Do you recognize the item contained therein?
I do.
And I'll show you the second one. You recognize this envelope,
Yes.
and if you would take a look inside as well. You recognize that item?
I do.
Okay. What do you recognize both these items to be?
Projectiles removed from the site.
These are the same ones that you just have identified in the photographs.
Correct.
And was there a number assigned, an item number assigned to both of these?
Yes, there was.
Okay, and what is this first one?
29-1,
And how about the second one?
29-2.
And do they fairly accurately represent the items as you recall when you saw them, or recovered them back in June of 2013?
Yes.
Objection.
It matches the next exhibits.
77 and 78.
Could you please go ahead? Placing what's been marked now, Exhibit 77 on the overhead. So you recognize that item?
Yes.
That's item 29-1 that you were just identified.
Yes.
Now, so earlier when you indicated you recovered this item in that gravel pit, there was certain material that was attached to it.
Correct.
In current form, is that's not, that
No.
material is no longer there. Is that right?
That's correct.
Now I'm going to place 78 on the overhead. So you recognize this item.
Yes.
And you recognize that as 29-2.
Correct.
And sir, do you know an individual, let me ask you this, during the time that you were at the scene on June 22nd, did you see any other officers respond?
At one point in time, we had Sergeant O'Hara, Eddie O'Hara from CARS, and Sergeant Stephen Walsh from Ballistics.
Okay. And with regard to Sergeant Stephen Walsh, what unit is he from?
That was later on after we were done pretty much with the day.
Okay. But at some point were certain items...
That was not responsible, I object.
Sustained.
Okay. First, Sergeant Walsh, did you, in terms of the items that I just showed you, that were the projectiles that were recovered, did you see what happened to those items?
Sergeant Bennett gave the items to Sergeant Walsh.
Okay. And Sergeant Walsh is in the ballistic unit?
Yes.
Okay. Was there another individual there from a different unit?
Yes.
Who is that?
Sergeant Eddie O'Hara
And what unit is he from?
from CARS.
In CARS, what is that?
That's a collision analysis reconstruction section, and they have the ability to plot out a scene using GPS.
Okay. Did you see him arrive with any equipment?
Yes.
Okay. Did you see him do anything with his equipment?
He plotted out the 2 flags that we had put down.
If I could have one moment, Your Honor. That's fine, Your Honor. Thank you, sir.
I don't have any questions for Sergeant Howell.
Mr. Penn.
Your Honor, if I could call Trooper Stephen Gallagher, please.
Please face the clerk and raise your right hand.
Sir, do you solemnly swear that the testimony about to give to this court and this jury will be the truth, the whole truth, but nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Have a seat, sir.
Thank you.
Good morning, sir.
Morning, sir.
Would you state your full name?
Stephen R. Gallagher,
Could you spell your last name, please?
Gallagher.
And, sir, do you work?
Yes, sir.
Where do you work?
The Massachusetts State Police.
How long have you worked there?
Approximately 13 years, sir.
And how are you currently assigned?
To the State House on Beacon Hill in Boston.
And in terms of your, do you have any additional duties in addition to being assigned to the State House?
Yes, sir. I'm a member of the State Police Special Response Team. It's called CERT.
Okay. Can you describe what are your duties with regard to the assignment to that unit?
So we're a unit within the State Police that is available 24/7 to both local and state agencies for the purposes of missing person, site security, crowd control, evidence searches.
Now, at some point, direct your attention back to June of 2013. Were you part of that unit at that time?
Yes, sir.
And do you recall being involved in a search on June 19th of 2013?
Yes, sir.
And just tell us, where did you go on that date?
We advised her to respond to North Attleboro, an industrial park area of North Attleboro.
And did you respond?
Yes, sir.
Approximately what time?
9 a.m.
And did you meet with any other personnel?
Yes, sir. There were approximately 8 to 10 other CERT members there, as well as detectives, I believe, from North Attleboro and State Police.
Okay. And just describe the area that you went.
It was a sandpit area, sir, a large open sandpit area.
And what did you do at that sandpit?
We conducted a search of the area there.
Okay. And just describe, when you say a search of the area, describe, first of all, what kind of search did you conduct?
Initially, sure, once a search area is established, we conducted what is called a grid search, a line search. That is which we would line up on a single line across the area, and depending on the object we're looking for, we determine the spacing between fellow troopers. So, in other words, if you're looking for a cell phone, for instance, the spacing between you would be lesser because it's a smaller object. The bigger the object, the larger the spacing would be between us. Once you have that determined, then you do a slow, methodical, straightforward search of the area.
Okay. And with regard to this search on this day, how close were you to your fellow search members?
We're just about shoulder to shoulder.
Okay. And just describe, you said a grid search. How do you conduct a grid search?
It's a line of troopers standing shoulder to shoulder, straight across. They would, like I say, go forward in a straight, methodical, slow approach and go up to the end of the segment. If they had to search more of that segment, they would pivot, turn around, and come back down parallel to where they searched, thus creating like a grid.
I see. And so how many members of your unit were involved in that line or grid search?
There were, I believe that day, 8 to 10 of us.
Okay. And what areas of that sandpit area did you search?
The whole pit area there. There was a couple mounds of sand. There was an asphalt mound. A lot of open area there. There was some construction debris.
Okay. So I'm just going to show you this photograph, ask you if you recognize the scene depicted there.
Yes, sir.
And what do you recognize that to be?
The industrial sandpit area right here, sir.
Okay. And in terms of, does this picture show the area that you've described that you were searching?
Yes.
And just if you would point out where that is.
This area right here.
I see. And does it fairly accurately cover the area that you searched doing your grid search?
Yes.
Your Honor, I'd offer this as an exhibit.
Objection. Be marked as next exhibit.
Exhibit 79.
Placing number 79 on the overhead. Is that the photograph you just identified?
Yes, sir.
And again, if you would just show, using your finger, I'll try and track your movement, where you search.
Sir, real quick, we started in a line search here, went up
pivot, came back down, so forth, and kept on going till the whole area was complete.
You're indicating, so on the left part here, is that
Yes.
accurate?
Correct,
And then a line going up,
correct.
when you said pivot,
Right, the right flank, whoever's on the right flank here would stay, the rest of the team would then pivot and come back down.
okay, and what happens here?
Same thing, pivot, back up, pivot, back down.
Okay. And during the course of the search, did you find anything?
No, sir.
Any ballistic evidence?
Not that day, sir, no.
Any, note any broken glass, mirror, parts of a car, anything of that nature?
No, sir.
Now, what, when you completed that, what did you do?
Once we finished that segment, sir, we moved on to a second segment
Okay.
search.
And what segment was that?
An area of, a wooded area off of Landry Ave.
And when you say wooded area off Landry Ave, how far was that from the area you just described, that you conducted the grid search?
It was right next to it, sir. It was essentially, it bordered the sandpit area.
Okay. And just tell us what you did at that location.
We had a starting point. We did a line search of that area as well. Same with 8 to 10 troopers. And again, a straight line, shoulder to shoulder, as best we could, and a slow, methodical approach to the wooded area.
And what was the topography of that land where you were doing that?
It was pretty tough. It was an embankment immediately off the guardrail in a flattened out area where it was kind of a lot of water, a lot of leaves, a lot of debris, rocks.
Okay. And did you find anything as you went along that line search along Landry Avenue?
Yes, sir.
And what did you find?
Found a small firearm.
Okay. And if you just describe, when you say a small firearm, how did that appear at that time?
It was laying there on a flat surface. It was black and silver in color.
And what did you do upon finding that item?
Immediately yelled out firearm, and several other troopers observed it as well. We then stayed with the object there until detectives were informed of it.
Okay. And was that flagged in some manner?
Yes, one of the troopers flagged it with a piece of notebook paper and a stick, I believe.
Okay. Approach, Your Honor.
Right.
So I'm going to show you a series of photographs, ask you if you recognize them. Recognize that photo?
Yes, sir. 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 Yes, sir.
And what do you recognize those photos to depict?
The search area we searched and the firearm that was located.
They fairly accurately portray the scenes that, as you recall, from your search of that area on June 17, 2013.
Yes, sir.
If I could have these photos, the next one.
We come inside, Your Honor.
88 with this.
Thank you. And may I publish these? Sir, I'm just going to show you what now has been marked 80A. Recognize this scene, sir.
Yes, sir.
And you indicated what you recognize to be.
Also, this is the sandpit area, this is the second area we searched right here,
Okay,
sir.
and if you just, I'm sorry, if you could just point that and repeat your answer, please, so just so I can show what you're pointing to.
Okay, this is the initial area we searched here, the sandpit,
Okay.
and this stretch here is the second segment we searched right here.
Okay. And tell us, where did you begin that search?
Right here, sir.
And you're indicating right here.
Yes.
And were there other members of the CERT team that were also present in this area on that date?
Yes.
And what were they doing?
We were all on a line here, conducting the search here.
I'm sorry, in addition to the unit that you were working with, did you see other officers?
There were other searches, however, at this point, I believe all as one unit, we're all right here at this search right here.
At any time, did you see anybody, a K-9 unit?
There were several canines there, yes.
Okay, and just generally, what areas, where did you see them?
Canine, I believe, they did other areas, but one area I remember them doing was this area right here.
And you're pointing to the corner here?
Yes.
Okay. Now, just describe what you did from when you started the search on Landry Avenue.
Okay, using the guardrail as our boundary here, we essentially just lined up straight across, shoulder to shoulder,
Okay, and you're indicating this way,
from the guardrail left.
to the left, okay?
Correct. And then and then continue to walk forward.
And then you begin walking forward. Now, how many people were near, or side to side?
I believe there were about 8 of us there on that line.
Okay. And so, from the guardrail, what was the terrain like to the left of the guardrail?
It was an embankment, then an embankment then flattened out, and there was a wall there with some, a lot of debris, leaves, sticks, some a wet area there.
Okay. I'm show you now what's marked as, has been marked as AD. You recognize the scene depicted in this photograph.
Yes, sir.
And what does this depict?
The area where the weapon was located, this is actually the stone wall that went down through.
You're indicating this area here, sir?
Yes.
Okay. And is this the general area where that item was located?
Yes, sir.
And approximately, can you see, I can just go back for a moment, there was an intersecting street here just beyond where you had begun your search.
Yes.
Do you know what the name of the street is?
I believe this is John Dyche Boulevard.
Okay. And with regard, now back to 80B, can you see that area in this photograph?
Barely, I believe it's right back here.
I'm sorry, sir?
I believe it's right back here, sir.
Okay, you're pointing up to this corner?
Yes.
Do you recall approximately how far the distance was from this stone wall, the area where you observed this item, to the corner of John Beach? Approximately.
Approximately 500 feet or less.
Okay. I'm placing ADC on the overhead. Does that show a similar shot of looking back to that area?
Yes, sir.
What end of the line were you on?
I was on the far end, the far left side, sir.
Okay, and what was the travel like for you on the far end of that line?
It was a little easier there just because it was a flat surface where I was. It was a wet area, but it was a little easier.
Brush and growth and that type of thing.
Correct.
Okay, let me just show you what's now been marked AD. You recognize the scene depicted in this photograph?
Yes, sir.
What do you recognize to be?
That's actually the notebook where we marked the firearm.
Okay, and you're pointing, so right there?
Yes, the white piece of paper there.
And how close were you to that location when you first observed it?
I'm sorry, say that again, sir?
Sure. How close were you to that item when you first observed it?
Within feet, several feet when I first observed it.
Show you now what's marked AE. You You recognize this scene, sir?
Yes, sir.
And what does this show?
That is the location where the firearm is located, the white notepad paper is.
And there's a stone wall in this photograph.
Correct.
Show you now what's on the overhead is 80F. You recognize this photograph, sir?
Yes, sir.
And what does this show?
That's the firearm right there.
When you say right there, can you just hold the finger there?
Yep.
This item here.
Yes, sir.
Off to the right, what is that?
That's the wet area I was describing, is a wet area right here to the right.
Placing 80G now on the overhead. You recognize this?
Yes, sir.
What is this?
That's the firearm, sir.
A close-up? It's just a closer photograph, sir.
Yes, sir.
And lastly, 80H. Does that show a closer view of that?
Yes, sir.
Is that exactly in the location that you first observed it?
Yes, sir.
Did you ever handle that or touch that?
No, sir, it wasn't touched by anyone on the CERT team.
And so what do you do after now locating that and flagging it?
A member of the CERT team, I'm not sure who, sir, reached out to one of the detectives, and one of the detectives showed up on scene. I believe from then, crime scene or ballistics was advised after that.
Your Honor, may I approach? Your Honor, this item has been secured. Sir, I'm going to show you this item and ask you if you recognize it.
Yes, sir, that's, looks familiar to the firearm found there in the woods, sir.
Okay. And is this the approximate size and shape?
Yes, sir.
And what about the color?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Does it fairly and accurately depict its condition as substantially similar to when you first observed it?
Yes, sir.
When you first observed it, with did there appear to be any dirt or anything on it?
Yes, there was some dirt, minimal amount of maybe discoloration or rust or,
Okay. And approximately how big or small is this item?
it's about 6 inches, sir, in length.
And with regard to my hand, how big or small is it?
6 inches in length, about 3 inches in width.
Okay. Your Honor, I'd offer this as an objection.
Same objection?
Well, same objection, but I'm not sure that Trooper Gallagher has identified
Objection is
this.
sustained.
Sir, is there anything, just in terms of the description of the firearm that you observed in the course of your search? Just going to show you this photograph. Um, 88.
Your question, sir?
My question is there anything different about the firearm that you observed there and the firearm I'm holding in my hand?
No, sir.
How about in terms of the size,
No, sir.
the color?
No, sir.
Objection sustained.
Okay. Could you then describe the firearm that you located off of Landry Avenue?
A small firearm, black and silver in color, about approximately 6 inches long by 3 to 4 inches in width.
Okay. And in terms of the coloring, were certain parts, could you just describe the colors of that firearm?
Yes, obviously the barrel here appears to be discolored.
If you could just hold that up so the jury can see it, please.
Oh, sorry. The barrel here appears to be discolored with dirt and some minimal debris on it.
Okay. And in terms of the coloring of either the slide or the handle, just describe that if you would.
It's identical to that. The barrel slide is black in color as well as the handle.
Okay. Are there other different colors on this, on the item that you recovered?
Yes.
Or found?
For instance, the trigger guard is silver, and the components surrounding the handle are silver as well.
Okay. And is there anything different about the item that I'm showing you now?
No, other than it being cleaner, no, sir.
Okay. So is it substantially the same to the item that you had located during the course of your search?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Well, I'd offer this.
Objection is sustained.
Could I have this marked at this time, please?
You may.
For identification?
For identification.
Thank you.
When they approach. I'm sure you this item as if you recognize it.
Yes, sir.
What do you recognize it to be?
The sand pit area, the search.
Okay. And beyond the sand pit, do you see other areas?
Yes, this appears to be Landry Ave right here, sir.
Does this fairly inaccurately represent that area?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Ron, I'd offer this.
No objection to chalk, but not as an exhibit.
Yes.
Maybe use this chalk, maybe mark for identification.
A for ID.
Use the old one. I'm placing K for ID on the overhead. You recognize the area of the sand pit,
Yes, sir.
and that is depicted where, sir?
This area right here, sir.
Okay? Indicated. That's the color yellow.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, with regards to that location, sir, can you just point out the area where you have located the firearm?
That was located over here, sir.
Okay, you're indicating over in here, sir?
Correct.
Okay. And can you see a marking of that location on this?
Okay, right here, sir?
Okay, is that shown there?
Yes, sir.
And is that the approximate location where you located it?
Yes, sir.
And you indicated the distance from that location down to John Beach is how far?
500 feet or less.
I can have one moment, Your Honor. Thank you, sir.
Good morning, President.
Morning, sir.
Showing you Exhibit 80A. That's Exhibit 80A. You saw that on the examination. And could you point out approximately where it was that you found the .22?
Right around this area, sir.
And so that would be about where my finger is?
Yes, sir.
And you testified that you started in this area, there's a driveway there,
Correct.
and so you and your colleagues started in that area and started marching along Landry Avenue, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And about how far after you started your search did you come upon the pistol?
I'd say probably about 75 feet, maybe to 100 feet, sir.
Okay. And did you take any measurements as to how far from that driveway or from the intersection of Landry and Deitch you found the weapon?
No, sir.
And did anybody else, while you were there, take any measurements?
Crime scene services called in, sir. They took all the measurements, sir.
And did they in fact measure the distance where the gun was found?
I stayed there, sir, until they showed up on scene, then we continued with the search. What they did, you'd have to check with crime scene services, sir.
So you stayed with the weapon once you had found it?
Yes, sir.
And who came from crime scene services?
I don't know, sir. We contacted the detectives, and the detectives contacted crime scene services. I'm not sure who was it that actually came.
Well, who was it that came and you showed them where the weapon was?
For crime scene services?
Whoever, a detective, crime scene
It
services?
was a detective, sir. I don't know what detective it was.
Okay. And once the detective came, did you remain with the weapon?
As soon as he showed on scene, we continued with our search.
Okay. So a detective came and waited with the weapon.
Correct.
And your understanding was the detective was waiting for crime scene services to arrive.
Correct. The detective was there, and I believe also several of the CERT members stayed with it, and the rest of us continued with the search.
Okay. And how far down did you search?
Can we show you here, sir? Or?
Yes, please.
We finished our search down to this area, yes, sir.
So you searched all the way from the driveway, and I think you said maybe 75 feet where you found the weapon, and then you continued all the way to where the sand pit comes out onto Landry. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you search beyond the sand pit, continuing down Landry?
We did additional searches, sir. I don't remember if we did that area that day.
Okay. Do you have any notes that would help you remember that?
No, sir.
All right. Your recollection is that you searched from the driveway on Landry Avenue up to the sand pit.
Yes, sir.
The sand pit opens onto Landry.
Yes, sir.
And how far off the road was the gun found?
About 30 to 40 feet off the road, sir.
And did you measure that?
No, sir.
You just estimated.
Correct.
And your estimate of about 500 feet or less from the corner of Deitch and Landry is also an estimate.
Yes, sir.
Now, I think you testified that this Exhibit J is similar in shape to the item you found.
Yes, sir.
And you're not able to identify Exhibit J as the item you found because you didn't handle it at all.
Did not touch it, sir, no.
And Exhibit J does not appear in terms of dirt, rust, etc., as the item you saw off Landry Avenue, correct?
Well, it appears to be the same item. It's just a cleaner item than it was before.
Exhibit J has been cleaned, is that right?
It looks cleaner, sir, yes.
Well, there's no dirt on it,
Correct, sir.
and there's no rust on it.
Correct, sir.
And the item you found had dirt on it,
It had some dirt on it, yes, sir.
and it had rust on it.
I don't know if in terms of rust, it had some discoloration on it. I don't know if it was rust or not, whatever, sir. I'm not an expert in how things react to the elements, but there was some discoloration on it with dirt.
Did you see photographs of it?
Yes, sir.
And did the photographs appear to have some reddish discoloration on it,
It had some brown markings on it.
consistent with what you know to be rust?
I don't know, sir. Again, I'm not an expert in how the elements.
Well, you've seen items rust, I take it.
What's that, sir?
You've seen items that rust.
Yes.
I just want to give some brief instructions to the jury. You've I'm sure you've noticed some things have been marked as exhibits and they have a number, and others were marked for identification with a letter. Any numbered exhibit is an exhibit in the case. It's evidence, and you're going to have it in the jury room. The exhibits that are marked with a letter for identification may or may not become full-fledged exhibits, and you may or may not have those in the jury room.
When you were at the scene and a detective showed up, did the detective pick it up in your presence?
I don't know, sir. Once the detective showed the scene, like I said, several of us continued on with the search.
Well, my question was, did the detective pick it up while you were there, in your presence?
I did not see anyone pick it up in my presence, sir.
Now, does this look like the dirt and discoloration that was on the item that you found?
Similar, sir, yes.
And how about this?
Similar, sir, yes.
At all for these?
No objection.
Next exhibits.
And 82.
Showing your exhibit 82, does that show the dirt and discoloration that you were talking about in the item you found?
Similar, sir, yes.
And that shows some dirt that appears to be caked onto the gun,
Yes, sir.
and it shows along the barrel some rust-colored discoloration.
There is a discoloration, sir, yes.
Is it rust-colored?
I don't know, sir. It's brownish color. I don't know if it's rust or
A
not.
brownish, reddish-brown color?
Yes, sir.
You don't want to say it's rust?
Objection, Your Honor. He's already answered the question a couple of times.
Sustained.
How about this? Does that show the dirt?
Yes, sir.
And does that show the brownish areas of discoloration?
Yes, sir.
Would you agree with me that that looks like rust?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Does that look like rust?
Objection.
Does it?
Sir, it looks like discoloration to me. Like I said, I'm not an expert on how the environments handle metal.
I wasn't asking you about your expertise in the environment or metal. And
Sir, it looks like a discoloration. I don't know what it is.
now, the side of the road that you searched, the same side of the road that the sand pit was on, is that right?
Yes, sir.
So you searched along here?
Yes, sir.
And was that the side of the road where there were telephone poles?
Yes, sir.
And there were no telephone poles on the other side of the road?
That I'm not sure about, sir, but they were on the side we searched.
And did you search the other side of the road as well?
That was searched by us, sir. I don't remember if we did it that day or the following day.
Oh, by the way, do you know Trooper O'Hara from the Cars Unit?
What's the name, sir?
O'Hara?
I do not, sir.
Do you know what the Cars Unit is of the State Police?
Yes, sir.
What is that?
Collision auto reconstruction?
And they can map crime scenes?
Yes, sir.
And you've had experience with them responding to crime scenes?
Yes, sir.
Was he there, or anyone from Cars Unit there the day of your discovery of this 22?
I don't know, sir.
You didn't see him?
No, sir.
That's all, thank you.
Sir, you indicated there were other searches.
Yes, sir.
How many other searches?
That day, sir, like I said, I'm not sure how many we did subsequent to that search there, but the next day we do several other search areas as well,
How many individuals were involved in the searches?
between 8 and 10.
Okay, and what other areas of searches were done following day?
A stretch of Landry Ave, I believe, and the sand pit itself, we did a more thorough search of the sand pit area.
Anything else found?
No, sir.
Thank you, that's all I have.
You may sit down.
Thank you, Your Honor.
And I call Sergeant Edward O'Hara.
Please follow me. Face the clerk and raise your right hand.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony about to give this court in this chair will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Have a seat, sir.
Morning, sir.
Good morning.
State your full name.
My name is Edward O'Hara, O-H-A-R-A.
Okay. Where do you work, sir?
with the Massachusetts State Police.
How long have you worked there?
Approximately 22 and a half years.
And how were you currently assigned?
I'm a sergeant. I'm assigned to the Collision Analysis and Reconstruction Section, or CARS is the acronym we use.
How long have you worked for that unit?
Approximately 15 years.
Just tell us what you, brief description of your duties as a member of that unit.
Our unit, we respond to fatal or serious injury crashes that may become fatalities. We conduct collision reconstructions, attempt to determine speeds and how the collision occurred, causation. We also provide, as part of that, we do mapping of the scenes where we take measurements and then create diagrams of those scenes. We also do that for crime scenes and other incidents.
Do you have special equipment you use for the mapping?
Yes, sir.
Okay, just describe what that is.
Well, we use tape measures. We use total stations, which is basically a laser measuring device. You might see it at a construction zone. We also use GPS total stations, which is basically a GPS version of that. The total station is basically a laser where we shoot a laser to a prism and it sends a signal back. The GPS total station is basically a similar idea, but it uses satellites just like a GPS in the motor vehicle.
And just directing your attention to June 19th of 2013, were you working on that date?
Yes.
Did you go to a particular location?
Yes.
And what location did you go to?
It was like a storage yard for construction material on John Deach Boulevard in North Attleboro.
And when you went to that location, did you, what were your duties that day? What did you do?
Had been requested to assist creating or mapping the scene with Sergeant Timothy Dowd.
Okay. And what areas did you map or create a scene for?
Well, in the yard area, we were directed by Crime Scene Services to certain points that they wanted us to map.
Okay. And sir, if I could, Your Honor, I'm just going to show you what was previously marked as 55, exhibit number 55. You recognize this diagram?
Yes.
What do you recognize that to be?
That's a diagram that Sergeant Dowd created based on those points that he shot that day when I was present.
Okay. And at some point, did you also return to the scene to take additional points?
Yes, sir.
And what additional points did you take?
I was directed to take points at, as they were described to me, locations where they had found spent bullets from them.
And do you recall just seeing certain areas that had been flagged?
Yes.
And as a result of seeing those areas, did you use your equipment to record that?
Yes, sir.
Just describe how you did that.
Take the GPS pole and place it at that location, and then take a point at that location.
Okay. And how many locations did you record on that date?
At that scene,
At that particular spot?
there were 3.
Okay. And with regard to the locations, describe what locations you took data for.
They were described to me as there were basically holes in the dirt or the sand that was there.
Okay.
And I was just directed to take those points.
Okay.
And then I took a point, I was directed to take a point where the direction of the head of the victim, that's how it was described to me.
Okay. Now, with regard to those, once you had recorded that information, was that then diagrammed or added to the diagram that was prepared at the scene?
Yes, as part, I would open the case in the computer, and that would just be added to that initial job or case that Sergeant Dowd had shot earlier in the week.
Okay, so I'm just going to direct your attention to exhibit number 55. Did you, was that information with regard to the spent projectiles recorded in that diagram?
Yes.
Okay, and just if you'd indicate where is that?
It is highlighted with it states spent projectile and then has a arrow directed towards it.
Okay, and how many locations is that indicated there?
There are 2.
And that was then plotted how?
It would have been captured with the data collector from shooting at the scene, and then Trooper Dowd would have used a AutoCAD program, a drafting program, to create the diagram.
Now, at some point, did you also go to an area of Landry Avenue to record certain information?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and do you recall what date you did that on, sir?
The Saturday, I believe it was the 22nd.
Okay, and just describe that area that you went to.
It's a street that is basically behind that area of that I initially went to with Sergeant Dowd. It's a roadway that runs behind it.
Okay, and if you would, describe just the particular area you went to.
It's a 2-lane roadway. There's a guardrail on the side, and then there's an embankment that goes down into a wooded area. And as I recall, there was a small creek or stream there.
And did you record or take data did you notice any flagging of that area, sir?
Yes, I was directed to an area.
Okay. And as a result of that, did you record information from that area?
Yes.
I'm just going to show you a photograph that's previously been marked E. Do you recognize this area, sir?
Yes.
Okay. And what do you recognize that to be?
It appears to be the area that I took that print at.
And after recording that point, did you do anything with that information?
Well, that would have been stored in that same job as those other points.
Okay.
I then took additional points in the area as reference points.
And I'm just placing a K for identification. Recognize this. Recognize this diagram, sir?
Yes, sir.
And was that information that you recorded in the area on Landry Avenue, was that then plotted onto this diagram?
Yes.
Okay. Is that shown here? I'm trying to zoom it in. Can you see that okay?
Yes, it's fuzzy, but yes, I can see it.
Okay, let me try and... Just, if you would, sir, just generally describe the area, if you could point to it, and I'll just try and note where you've located it.
It's off the roadway.
You're indicating off the roadway in this area?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and there's is it noted in some way on this diagram?
Yes, it appears to be a mark on this diagram. You can see there's a mark.
And I accurately point to your point.
Yes, sir.
And sir, just a question with regard to these, the last 2 diagrams that I showed you. How are these oriented in terms of direction? Again, just going back to 55. In terms of north, south, east, and west.
I'm not sure, sir. I did not create the diagram.
Okay. Wait a moment. No further questions. Thank you, sir.
Good morning, Sergeant.
Good morning, sir.
So you have been a member of the CARS unit for, you said about 16 years, is that right?
Approximately 15 years.
Okay. And part of what your unit does is to map recovered items of evidence, right?
Yes, sir.
And you have equipment that is capable of doing that quite precisely, right?
Yes, sir.
So, for example, if you came to a scene you were brought to a scene where there were, for example, shell casings on that scene, when you got there, your equipment is capable of precisely determining the exact location of those shell casings and documenting that. Is that right?
Yes, sir. Within millimeters of the
Within
location.
millimeters, okay. And there are a number of members of the CARS unit, right?
Yes, sir.
It's not just you and Sergeant Dowd, right?
No, sir.
There are about how many members are there of the State Police CARS unit?
Approximately 22 or 23.
Okay. And is it fair to say, Sergeant, that somebody in that unit is on call 24/7?
Yes.
Okay. So somebody in your unit would have been on call on the evening of June 17th, 2013, right?
Yes.
Okay. Am I correct that, to your knowledge, no one from your unit responded to a fatality on John Deitch Boulevard in North Attleboro that evening?
Not that I'm aware of, no, sir.
Now, you came to the scene with Sergeant Dowd 2 days later, on June 19th, right?
No, sir. I believe it was June 18th.
I apologize. June 18th. Is that the day that this diagram was, that you were just shown, was made?
Well, the diagram would have been made later, but the points would have been taken that day.
Okay,
Yes.
so you got there the following day?
Yes, sir.
I apologize. Okay.
Yes, sir.
And when you got there the following day, June 18th, there were no shell casings on the ground, right?
No, sir.
There was no body on the ground, right?
No, sir.
There was no... Someone told you and your colleague where those items had been, right?
Yes, they directed us to those. That's correct, yes.
Right. So in using your equipment and producing this diagram, you were not relying on actually seeing those items for yourselves, right?
That's correct. Most of the items, yes.
You were relying on what other people told you those items had been, right?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. I have no further questions.
Sir, do you recall when you had responded the day after, on June 18th, do you recall seeing a red-brown stain?
Yes, sir.
And when you took measurements in relation to that stain, how far off were you of that stain?
Oh, Trooper Dowd would have taken them, but he put it on that stain.
Okay, nothing further. Thank you.
Nothing further.
You may step down.
Thank you.
Morning recess. Please remain suspended. Don't discuss the case among yourselves with anyone else.
All right, the jury, please.
The defendant made two different objections to the introduction of the firearm. I sustained the objection on the second one that had not been advanced to sidebar, which I deemed to be a foundation objection, since the witness testified that he himself never physically handled or touched the weapon, therefore wasn't the person to put whatever identification tag appears on it, and the weapon and the witness had indicated that the weapon he saw looked, had certain brown, may have had brown stains or rust stains, and cannot say with certainty that it is the same weapon as opposed to the same type. Two, it may make sense not to do that second videotape until after lunch, so that there's time for, I'd love to be able to keep this recess to a 15-minute one and not have it turn into a 35-minute one, so that there's time for counsel to see the revised videotape and draft the stipulation of stipulations. And so it would be my preference is that with respect to that videotape, as opposed to the first series, of which there's no objection, that we hold off until after lunch. And finally, the media is allowed to have cell phones. Siri should be turned off so that she is not spontaneously communicating. 15 minutes.
Your Honor, I'm sorry. I just have one item involving the media, because we were talking about Zoom cameras this morning. I note that there's a camera right behind where the defense is located. I'm concerned about Mr. Hernandez and Mr. Rankin are at that table. I think the media should be directed not to zoom in on any of their communications, because they're writing notes to each other, and I'm just concerned about that, Your Honor.
I will, there should be not any zooming in on any conferences between counsel or conferences between counsel and client. Thank you.